Hello, wow, good afternoon. Whew, that's such a full and big room. So I've joined a couple of conferences, I think all of the steward-owned conferences so far, and every time I see so many new faces, and it makes me so happy because I consider steward ownership not just an idea, but really a movement. And it starts everywhere, but it's growing into something bigger and global. And these conferences are what really confirms this feeling for me every time. So thank you so much for coming here today and listening to all of us speak and sharing your thoughts and your questions with us. So today we learned why ownership matters. We learned that ownership defines whom a company truly serves, people or shareholder value. We met a couple of founders who wanted independence, who wanted to put the product quality at the heart of their business. And we also learned that, well, the ownership models we have and the financing models we have, they drive something else than what we want, which is concentration of power, monopolies, and really the neglect of public value. I stand here today not as a founder, not as a shareholder, not as a scientist, that's for sure. I stand here as an employee and as a human. And as such, steward ownership gives me great hope. And today I want to tell you why. A couple years ago, maybe a little longer than a couple years ago, when I left my university, I was looking for a new challenge. And some of you might work in startups. I also joined a couple of startups back then. And if you've ever worked in a startup, you might resonate with that feeling. Like, I was really thrilled by the energy, the curiosity, and the can-do spirit, and this hunger to create a whole team. It was inspiring, it was fun, and it felt really meaningful. And I believed in their purpose, in their mission and vision, and their idea. But over time, something has changed. The tone, it grew a little urgent, and all of a sudden we stopped building for people, and instead we started chasing numbers. Now our product didn't have to be, it had to be new, it had to be pitchable and flashy and cool, but no one was asking anymore for, I don't know, simple, practical, or just a good product. So after today, what do you think has happened? Investors came in. And I really don't want to talk bad about investors at all here, because the experience of VC funding can be so different from company to company. But in this case, it really changed the spirit of the company, of the team, and really what we cared about. At that time, I had no idea about the relevance of ownership. I had no idea how this was all connected. It was just an observation. I never thought about who owns a company, what's the ownership structure. I was just an employee. I just wanted to work for something that I really believed in. But this whole situation did get me wondering, what is the true game of a business? And I started looking for companies, and I was wondering, what is their why? And that's when I started at Ecosia. That's almost 8 years ago now, quite some time. And I discovered the search engine. Michael already introduced it. It's a search engine from Germany that uses 100% of profits for climate action. Herr Schwabe told you how many trees we've planted so far. He forgot 100 million. So, and actually, early next year, 250 million trees will be planted in biodiversity hotspots, regenerating ecosystems, together with local communities, bringing back endangered species. It's amazing work, and only thanks to millions of people worldwide that said, oh yeah, of course, I make Ecosia my default search engine. So naturally, you can maybe imagine back then, 7.5 years ago, when I learned about Ecosia, I was like, yes, finally, a company that really understands a why and really wants to create value and doesn't care about making money, only maybe for the greater good, but not for themselves. It happened to be at the same time that Ecosia's founder, Christian Kroll, some of you might know him, he raised the question of the ownership of the company. And he wanted to move it to steward ownership. He told me about this, and I was just like, yes. And I never shared this with him, but I'm going to share it here on stage, why not? I had no idea why he wanted to do that. I really didn't understand it. Because I thought, why? I mean, you have the value, you have the why, we all have it. I trust you, we all trust you. Why do you want to fix something that isn't broken? We trust our purpose. And then it took me a little bit, and I started understanding. The purpose of a company alone, it is not safe. It's ownership that makes sure that the why can actually survive long term. So I had believed in the why of the startups that I joined until they changed. So when they changed the why, I left. I found Ecosia. Ecosia secured their why. And I'm really, really glad they did. But I tell you today, the why of a company is what really needs protection. And not only myself, I'm really glad today that Ecosia is steward-owned, so should be you. Because Ecosia doesn't just plant trees and climate action and all of that. It's a search engine. And as such, it's critical infrastructure for us today. Because search is not just a tool we use in school anymore. It's really a lens that we perceive the world through, that we experience and make sense of the world. And algorithms, and also AI, an even more important topic these days, they are not neutral. They actively shape how we perceive the information portrayed. They influence what we believe to be true and what we dismiss to be irrelevant. In doing so, they help define what societies might consider more important than other things. So they influence what we as a collective care about. So after everything that we've heard today, and Catherine already a little bit raised the question or pointed this out, there is this one important question we have to keep raising. How is the digital world owned? Who owns it? And most importantly, whom does it serve? Well, until very recently, search worldwide was mostly operated by two algorithms, owned by two very well-known US-American companies. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but I would like to ask you to have this set in. Because it's two companies from one country serving global search, global information. That is an enormous concentration of informational power. But I'm also here to share some good news, because this year something has changed. Together with our French competitor Quant, some might know them, they're really big in France, bigger than us, damn it. We launched a joint venture called European Search Perspective. So for the first time ever, Europe actually has their own search index. And that can also form the foundation for European AI. This is maybe a little bit technical. That doesn't sound sexy or exciting, but I'm here to tell you, take away one thing. This is huge, because it's a huge chance for Europe to shape their own digital autonomy, to create their own digital independent world, but the European way. This index is co-owned by us, Ecosia, a steward-owned company. As such, it stays independent and it's there to serve the people, to really create value. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we're applauding Ecosia. That wasn't me. But yes, that's a remarkable development. And yet, our governments, our schools, our public institutions, they stick to American and shareholder-driven digital products. Of course, it's a habit, right? It's a convenience. But I tell you what it is not. It is definitely not a practice that moves the needle in the greater picture that we so dearly have to care about these days. We cling to those inherited frameworks somehow, and we act almost like they were these inherited truths. But the greatest risk, maybe, isn't the technology itself. It's rather our collective failure to really think beyond those limits of outdated models and thinking. I mean, don't we all want a digital world that is there to serve the people, to create just a really good product and that doesn't care about the money? I think we do. And if we want that, then steward ownership. Since steward-owned companies, they're not just an option. Steward ownership can rebalance power dynamics in the economy. It can strengthen diversity, create new financing tools. It protects the purpose that we care about. It does so in startups, family businesses, and with Ecosia also in critical infrastructures. So no, steward ownership is not just another option. It is a key. And I believe, and I think all of us do, that the time to turn this key for politicians, for entrepreneurs, and maybe even for all of us as a society is today. Because in the end, ownership does matter. Thank you very much.